In our headlines on this Tuesday, November 26th, here in South Korea, a ceasefire deal between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah is taking tangible shape to halt the violence in Lebanon, according to U.S. officials, but uncertainty remains. And the unification ministry here says North Koreans hosted their loyalty oath ceremony on January 8th this year to coincide with Kim Jong-un's birthday as he seeks to bolster his leadership image. Meanwhile, in a posting on social media, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump reaffirms intentions to impose substantial tariffs on U.S. trade partners, including Mexico, Canada and China, on day one of his administration next year. The U.S. says a ceasefire deal to end the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah may soon be sealed, but uncertainty remains as the response to the proposed deal stands mixed. Our foreign affairs correspondent Peun-ji has the latest.
The United States has said ceasefire talks to end the war in Lebanon are close to reaching an agreement. A State Department spokesperson said in a press briefing on Monday local time that it's pushing as hard as it can to get to a diplomatic resolution, but urged caution on optimism.
Look, we don't believe we have an agreement yet. We believe we're close to an agreement. We believe that we have narrowed the gap significantly, but there are still steps that we need to see taken.
Citing a source familiar with the matter, CNN said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signaled his potential approval for a ceasefire with Hezbollah with Israeli officials on Sunday night. Israel's cabinet is reportedly set to vote on the proposed deal on Tuesday. Reuters also reported that U.S. President Joe Biden and French President Emmanuel Macron are expected to announce a ceasefire in Lebanon soon, citing 4 senior Lebanese sources. But obstacles remain as reports that a deal was close were met with a mixed response in Israel. Far-right Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir called a U.S.-backed ceasefire deal a big mistake and said it would be a historic missed opportunity to eradicate Hezbollah. Residents of northern Israel, many of whom have been displaced by the conflict, have also reportedly expressed concerns about the potential deal. Another unresolved issue is that Israeli officials have demanded the freedom to strike Hezbollah as part of any ceasefire deal, in case the Iran-backed militant group violates an emerging agreement. But Hezbollah's leader has said it wants a complete ceasefire and protection of Lebanon's sovereignty. Eyes are now on whether the two sides will be able to reach an agreement to end more than 13 months of fighting that has killed more than 3,000 people in Lebanon. Peun-ji, Arirang News.
In Italy, back on Monday, top diplomats of South Korea and Ukraine met for talks on the margins of the G7 foreign ministers meeting. The foreign minister Cho Tae-yeol sat down with his Ukrainian counterpart Andriy Sybiha to touch upon the presence of North Korean troops on the battlefield in support of Russia's invasion. Sybiha also voiced hopes for a visit by a Ukrainian delegation to Seoul in the near future to further address the military cooperation between Pyongyang and Moscow. Minister Cho, for his part, added hopes for, quote, meaningful talks during the envisioned visit. Meanwhile, North Korea's efforts to play up its leader Kim Jong-un's image and power were evident earlier this year when the regime hosted its loyalty oath ceremony on his birthday. Now, this is according to the unification ministry here. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil reports.
North Korea appears to be continuing to step up efforts to solidify the leadership cult of the regime's leader. South Korea's Ministry of Unification confirmed Tuesday that North Korea held this year's loyalty pledge on January 8th, leader Kim Jong-un's birthday, instead of the usual January 1st. Loyalty pledges, while regionally varied, typically involve residents gathering for a meeting on the party or leader before signing the pledge. The ministry analyzed the shift as part of a deliberate move to elevate Kim's status, marking a break from tradition that occasionally aligned these pledges with the birthdays of Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il. The ministry noted North Korea's recent removal of Juche-era references from state media, instead opting for the standard Gregorian calendar. The Juche era is a calendar system tied to Kim Il-sung's birth in 1912. The ministry interprets this shift as Kim distancing his leadership from reliance on the legacy of his predecessors, signaling a stronger push for his own cult of personality. Seoul believes this effort may intensify with potential moves such as declaring Kim's birthday a public holiday or expanding the use of Kim's portraits and badges. On the economic front, North Korea's trade with China has not recovered to pre-pandemic levels. From January to September, bilateral trade reached $1.49 billion, or just 76% of the amount recorded in 2019. Despite a gradual reopening of the economy, North Korea's imports and exports remain sluggish, with sectors such as raw materials for production continuing to dominate trade. The ministry also noted that while North Korea may consider additional troop deployments to Russia, it is more likely to rotate existing forces if the war continues. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And in yet another show of open animosity, North Korea severed the power line set up by South Korea for the operation of a former joint industrial site. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung has more.
Another move by North Korea to sever inter-Korean ties. Pyongyang has cut part of the power lines to the South Korea-installed transmission towers that supply electricity to the now-closed Kaesong industrial complex. According to the South Korean military, several North Korean soldiers have been detected removing sections of power lines along the Gyeonggi Road since Sunday.
The regime is yet to do anything to the transmission towers. They have piled up the severed high-voltage lines that fell to the ground.
It is speculated that cutting power lines could be part of preparations to get rid of the towers. The transmission towers, the steel pylons, are built at intervals of several hundred meters along the Gyeonggi Line Road, running from just north of the military demarcation line, the area North Korea blew up in mid-October, to the joint industrial park. There are a total of 48 transmission towers from the Munsan substation to the North Korean Peace substation, 33 towers in the south and 15 on the northern side. These transmission facilities, built by the South Korea Electric Power Corporation in 2006, connected the two Koreas and supplied electricity to the Kaesong industrial complex. The power supply was temporarily cut off in February 2016, following North Korea's fourth nuclear test in January of that year. Afterwards, with the thawing of inter-Korean relations, the power supply was partially resumed, but only to be completely halted again in June 2020 after North Korea unilaterally blew up the inter-Korean liaison office in Kaesong. Cutting off the power lines and preparing for the possible demolition of these transmission towers is seen as part of the regime's actions to sever inter-Korean connections since its leader Kim Jong-un declared the two Koreas as hostile nations. This follows the removal of streetlights along roads that run alongside the Gyeonggi and Donghae train lines earlier this year, the removal of the railroads in May, and the demolition of roads in October. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has reaffirmed his intentions to impose substantial tariffs on U.S. trade partners, including Mexico, Canada, and China, on the first day of his administration next year. Our Yoon has details.
President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to hit China, Mexico, and Canada with new tariffs on the first day of his presidency. On his social media platform Truth Social, Trump said that as his first of many executive orders on January 20th, he would impose tariffs of 25% on the U.S.'s neighboring countries, Canada and Mexico, until those countries halt the flow of drugs and migrants crossing their borders into the U.S. He also added that he plans to raise existing tariffs by an additional 10% for all goods coming from China, until the Chinese government implements measures to tackle the smuggling of drugs, specifically the synthetic opioid fentanyl. Washington estimates that almost 75,000 Americans were killed by fentanyl last year. But as Trump sets out to detail the implementation of his campaign promises, it's unclear how he'll be able to do so, as many goods coming from the U.S. from Mexico and Canada are exempted from tariffs under the terms of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement that entered into force in 2020. According to U.S. Census Bureau data for September 2024 on goods traded, Mexico is the largest trading partner of the U.S., followed by Canada and China. In 2023, more than 83% of exports from Mexico and 75% from Canada went to the U.S. 이은진, Arirang News.
Staying in the U.S., the president-elect's legal battle over election interference may be coming to a close, given a long-standing policy of the Justice Department that prohibits the prosecution of a sitting president. Our Ising-jae explains.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump defeated Kamala Harris during November's presidential elections to return to the Oval Office next January. The election victory may not be his only win, as his return to the White House means he's also set to see his legal issues disappear. This as special counsel Jack Smith has filed motions to drop all federal charges against Trump. The president-elect was first indicted in June 2023 on 37 felony counts related to his mishandling of classified White House documents that were found at his Florida residence. Despite a Florida judge dismissing the case, the special counsel's office sought an appeal. Trump was also indicted in August of that year on charges of attempting to reverse the results of the 2020 elections when he lost to President Joe Biden. The 4 felonies include conspiracy to defraud the U.S., conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of and an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. In a 6-page document submitted to a Washington, D.C. court, Smith included the reason for dropping the charges. He cited the Department of Justice's position that the case should be dismissed before the defendant takes office in accordance with the Constitution. The Department of Justice maintains the policy of not prosecuting a sitting president, viewing such move as interference with presidential duties. In the case of a sitting president, impeachment proceedings would replace indictments if necessary. Reports say Smith and his team will resign once Trump returns to office, but must give a full report on his investigation to the Attorney General before he steps down. Ising-jae, Arirang News.
Back here on the local front, economic prospects among Korean consumers have plunged to their lowest level in over 2 years amid concerns over the trade implications of a second Trump administration. Now, this is according to the Bank of Korea on this Tuesday. Overall, the Composite Consumer Sentiment Index for November fell to 100.7 from 101.7 in October. Now, a reading above 100 does indicate more optimism than pessimism, but pundits remain cautious as they await details of the incoming U.S. administration's trade policy. And President Yoon Suk-yeol on Tuesday vetoed a special probe bill into First Lady Kim Jong-un for the 3rd time. The bill, unilaterally passed by the main opposition party, seeks a separate investigation into alleged stock manipulation by the First Lady before President Yoon was elected, as well as her relationship with an obscure political figure, Myung Tae-gyun. Now, during a cabinet meeting earlier on this Tuesday, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo called the bill unconstitutional. Starting from the wee hours of this Tuesday morning, capital Seoul launched an autonomous bus service for early morning commuters. The service seeks to accommodate early hour workers, including those in cleaning services. The bus offers a 1 round trip from Dobongsan Station Metropolitan Transit Center to Yeongdeungpo Station from 3:30 in the morning, passing through 87 stops, including busy areas like Chongno and Yeouido districts. Up until the second half of 2025, the service is free and all passengers must be seated. No standing passenger is allowed amid safety concerns. Seoul's ancient fortresses may be included in UNESCO's list of World Heritage Sites. According to the Cultural Heritage Administration on this Tuesday, the International Council on Monuments and Sites has acknowledged the fortresses' potential of being recognized as World Heritage Monuments. The fortresses include the Bukhan Sansang Fortress, located behind Gyeongbokgung Palace, and the Hanyang City Wall that connects Seoul's 4 main gates, and the Tangchun Daesang Fortress. Poetry is emerging as a popular literary interest among the younger generation here in Korea. My colleague Han Da-eun tells us why.
This is a poetry club at a cyber university. Each month, members write and present their own poems in person, exchanging feedback with professors and fellow club members. While poetry was once primarily enjoyed by the older members of society, the interest has now shifted, with younger generations getting more involved.
People today often find it challenging to engage with lengthy texts, so there is growing interest in poetry that delivers humor and insight in a concise format.
Rising interest in poetry among young people is also having an impact on the local publishing industry. One of Korea's largest bookstore chains, Kyobo Book Center, saw sales of poetry books jump by 18% in the first half of this year from last year, with readers in their 20s and 30s leading the trend. Yes24, another major retailer, reported a staggering 122% increase in the proportion of poetry book sales to teenagers during the same period. A newly launched phone service that recites poems attracted nearly 300,000 calls from young poetry enthusiasts.
Unlike novels, poetry lets people hear the entire piece without losing any context, which I believe is a key reason behind the phone service's popularity.
Experts say that poetry has distinct qualities that appeal to young people accustomed to short-form videos and eager to express themselves in unique ways.
I believe young people are especially drawn to poetry because it contains the emotions, imagery, and symbolic expressions that resonate with their preferences, while also providing a way for them to express themselves.
But if poetry is consumed merely for its brief and unique emotional appeal, this trend is unlikely to last. The publishing industry and scholars hope that young people's love for poetry will pave the way for a literary foundation where quality poetry is properly recognized and appreciated. 한다은, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, new research shows body weight workouts are more effective than cardio workouts in burning fat. Our Cha Yoon-kyung shows us how.
Countless YouTube videos and mobile apps are encouraging the use of bodyweight exercises. This form of exercise is becoming popular in South Korea since it does not require any specific equipment and workouts can be done at home. But how effective is bodyweight training? We compared the result of energy consumption during and after 60 minutes of such exercises with cardio. As a result, bodyweight exercise consumed more energy than running while working out. 85% of energy consumption occurred in carbohydrates for bodyweight training. However, it was 73% for running, which is relatively small. Fat burning also occurred more for bodyweight training during the recovery process after exercise. 71% of energy consumption was from fat burning among the total energy consumption, while it was 50% for running. Also, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which stands for the amount of energy consumption of our body, lasted for a higher level for bodyweight training than running. This means that bodyweight exercise is more effective to lose weight by consuming more energy and burning more fat after exercise.
The result shows that bodyweight exercise is also great for diets, as much as cardio exercise like running when we compare the same amount of exercise. Furthermore, bodyweight exercise is helpful to burn fat, because fat burning occurs during the recovery process after exercise.
Anyone can easily do the bodyweight training at home. To work out for a long time might not be easy. However, it might be helpful to lose body weight by exercising repeatedly in a short period of time. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. The results of Sunday's second-round runoff of Uruguay's presidential election have been announced, where Yamandu Orsi of the center-left Broad Front coalition secured victory after a tight race against center-right National Party rival Alvaro Delgado. Orsi, a former history teacher and the former mayor of Uruguay's Canelones department, won the runoff with 49.8% of the votes compared to Delgado's 45.9%. The president-elect said in an address to thousands of his supporters that he intends to build a more integrated society. Delgado conceded defeat. 57-year-old Odyssey pledged to tackle poverty and crime during his campaign, as well as avoiding tax hikes to lure in businesses and investors to promote faster economic growth. Following 5 years of conservative rule in Uruguay, Odyssey's victory marks a return of a centre-left Broad Front party government, which previously ruled the country from 2005 to 2020. A tourist boat capsized off Egypt's Red Sea coast early on Monday morning local time, leaving 16 missing. According to the Red Sea Governorate, the Sea-Story luxury yacht was on a 5-day diving trip carrying 13 crew members and 31 tourists of various nationalities when it sank near the coastal town of Marsa Alam. The Governorate said 28 survivors have been rescued so far, and Egyptian armed forces have joined the rescue efforts. Authorities said it is not yet clear what caused the yacht to sink, but high waves of 4 to 6 meters were forecast in the Red Sea on Sunday and Monday, leading the Egyptian Weather Agency to advise the suspension of all maritime activities. Now to Lithuania, where 1 crew member was killed and 3 others injured when a DHL cargo plane crashed into a house on approach to Vilnius International Airport in the country's capital on Monday morning. According to a statement from DHL, an aircraft of a third-party carrier under contract for DHL made a forced landing about 1 kilometer from Vilnius Airport at around 4:30 a.m. on Monday. Lithuanian authorities said an investigation is underway, adding that terrorism cannot be ruled out. In rugby, South African Pieter-Steph du Toit took home the World Rugby Player of the Year award for the 2nd time on Sunday, while England's Ellie Kildan won the Women's Player of the Year award. 32-year-old du Toit, who previously won in 2019, is the 4th man to be named Rugby Union's top player twice. France's Antoine Dupont and Australian Madison Levy claimed the 7th Player of the Year titles at the same ceremony in Monaco. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
Rain with gusty winds hit most parts of the country today. Heavy rain of up to 100 millimeters is predicted today, 60 on the south coast and 40 in the Seoul metropolitan area. This is quite a lot of rain for the end of November. As wintry blast of air moves south, the rain will turn into snow. The first snow is expected in many inland areas, including Seoul. With preliminary warnings of heavy snow in place, up to 20 centimeters is forecast in Gangwon-do province until Thursday. Snowfall of more than 3 to 8 centimeters is expected in the Seoul metropolitan area as well. Tomorrow, Seoul, Daejeon, and Gyeongju will start off at 1 degree Celsius, Gwangju 3 degrees. Highs in Seoul and Chuncheon will move up to only 3 degrees, Daejeon and Daegu 6 degrees. Temperatures will plummet with rain and snow across the country. We'll see below 0 temperatures from Thursday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. Those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.